I've actually known Fred Tenover for 45 years. He was awarded the Marianus Scholarship to the University of Dayton, and I think there was a period where he was trying to decide whether to go to Notre Dame, which had also accepted him, and the University of Dayton, and he made the right choice. I think he made the right choice.
When I was a freshman, I was actually thinking of joining the Society of Mary.
He impressed me as the kind of quality person that we would like to be part of our brotherhood.
I did not join the Society of Mary, obviously, and went on and pursued my career in science, but always integrated with my faith. So to me, the faith and the science are synergistic, very much integrated.
Dr. Fred Tenover is Vice President of Scientific Affairs at Cepheid, a molecular diagnostics company. He also has academic appointments at Emory University and the Stanford University School of Medicine.
Fred is a dynamic personality. He is a leader. He's recognized across the world as a world expert.
He's a lot of fun, but he's very bright, very creative, and always looking for what's the next research question, what's the next issue of clinical relevance.
Amazing scientist. Even now, after almost 8 years, I'm still amazed at his depth of knowledge.
He's a top scientist, over 300 publications. That's incredible productivity. And again, in things that are so important to our world.
The work that he's done has translated into things that people in the field, scientists in the field, as well as the general public, can use and understand.
I love to be that translator, the person that takes the really difficult scientific concepts and makes them understandable either to other scientists or even to the lay public.
Dr. Tenover has worked around the world, helping to set up microbiology laboratories and to train scientists. His work at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention led to a seminal discovery.
We discovered the first transmissible carbapenem resistance gene in my laboratory at CDC in collaboration with Emory. That was an organism that we would now call a superbug.
It was a bit of a shockwave at the time, and to identify these resistant organisms, that it was a defined mechanism.
Describing that gene opened a whole new field of discovery, not just for the mechanism of resistance, but it spurred a whole new class of antibiotics.
It has lowered the rate of hospital-acquired infections. And how it has done that is because his work has given us the knowledge or the information on what to look for and how to detect them and how to control those infections.
After 18 years with the CDC, a friend and research collaborator convinced Dr. Tenover to join Cepheid.
We got to talking about Fred, how do you amplify your impact? How do you really go to the next level to really have an impact on the world?
Being here gave me the opportunity to expand and help develop new molecular diagnostic tests, particularly in the field of antibiotic resistance, and really start to address problems, unknowns with how antibiotic-resistant organisms are spread, how we can diagnose them rapidly and get people on the appropriate therapy even faster.
So it's a matter of hours versus weeks or months of waiting. And in the case of many of these drug-resistant organism infections, that is the difference between life and death.
We have captured the essence of molecular biology and put it in a 1 by 1 inch cartridge.
He's now able to have an impact across the world by implementing tools for controlling those outbreaks in hospitals literally all over the world.
He knows science very well, but he's also interested, seems to me, in the human effect of science. You know, to use his God-given talents in the area of science to serve people and to make life better for people.
The marriage of excellence in your field and social justice, that UD heart, is married so well in Fred, and I think that's exactly what we're looking for in an alumni award winner.
I think he's a real tribute to the University of Dayton and to the kind of student that we hope to graduate from this wonderful institution.
For his career accomplishments and lifelong example of learn, lead, and serve, the University of Dayton Alumni Association is proud to honor Dr. Fred Tenover with its Distinguished Alumnus Award.
President Spina, other award winners tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored and deeply moved to be here tonight. But what makes this particularly special is that I can share it with my family, with my great friends, and one of my most favorite mentors here. And in thinking back about the impact of UD in my, not just career, but my life, there's 3 vignettes that I'd like to share with you. First one is in 2006. I applied to be a member of the permanent diaconate in the Archdiocese of Seattle, or excuse me, of Atlanta. And so we did all the paperwork, and after several weeks, I got a phone call that said that Lisa, my wife, and I were to appear before the board of the diaconate. And the very first question they asked me was this: Dr. Tenover, how can you reconcile being a Roman Catholic and being a scientist? How can you reconcile being Catholic and being a scientist? I jumped right in. I said, there is no difference between my faith and my science. They are synergistic. One informs the other, and they each build. They build on one another. And in fact, I talked about Pope John Paul II in 1979. He gave a talk to the Vatican Academy of Sciences, and he says, science is a basic good and worthy of our respect. It is an expression of man's intelligence. I went on, I said, 1950, let's look at the encyclical Humani Juris, where Pope Paul XII said, there is no basic conflict between the teaching of evolution and the Catholic faith. And then I said, and let me tell you about my hero, Father Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the Jesuit priest and paleontologist who wrote about the phenomenon of man. And in my mind, I pictured the omega point, the sculpture outside the UD library. The omega point, according to Chardin, is when material energy and spiritual energy merge into Christ. It is the ultimate merger of love. Dr. Tenover? Yes? The board is actually rather shocked that you would bring up Chardin. You know that the warnings against reading his work, established in 1962, were in fact reaffirmed in 1981. So you are telling us about Chardin as a justification? I turned to Lisa and I said, oh, this is not going well. And it basically went downhill from there. And I never became a deacon. But it seems to have turned out okay. But the reason I could do that is that my theology classes at UD, my science classes prepared me to answer that exact question. I firmly believe in that synergy of science and faith. There is no conflict. There absolutely is not a conflict there. Now, I could have turned to another hero of mine, Brother Don Geiger. He is another perfect example of the merging of science and faith. And while Dr. Geiger is not as well known outside of UD, it is a fact that he has published more peer-reviewed scientific articles than Chardin ever did. And what's more, not a single one of those articles carries a warning from the Catholic Church. Not one. Next time I go to the diaconate board, I am going with Brother Geiger. Chardin just doesn't cut it anymore. In 1973, during the second year of my freshman year at UD, Isaac Asimov, the biochemist, the philosopher, the science fiction writer, came and he spoke to the students and he said this, he said, we live in a technological age and that technology is scary to many people. He said, if you understand technology, you have a moral obligation to explain it to those who do not. Now, I think those words are as true now as they were in 1973. And indeed, a lot of my career has been to be that teacher, to be that translator, to take the concepts of molecular biology to physicians, to laboratorians, and to help them understand how we can, in fact, use these techniques to revolutionize the detection and the fight against infectious disease globally. We can take a technique of diagnosing tuberculosis, which takes 3 to 4 weeks normally. We can do exactly that same thing now in 1 hour and 45 minutes. We can bring the laboratory anywhere in the world. We can bring it to the fields of Kenya. We can take it to the mines in South Africa. We can even take it to Dahlonega, Georgia. But it's important to understand the power and to help physicians in particular understand this is something that we can embrace. This is something that is powerful. I've also tried to help my wife understand how to use her iPhone, but some things are more difficult than others. Yes. It is true, as Father Marty said, that I came to UD as a freshman with the thought of joining the Society of Mary. I spent a lot of time at the Bergamo Center. I spent time at number 10 Sawmill, which was a Marianist community at the time, because I wanted to try and understand Blessed Mary's yes. How did she say yes to the Lord? And what does that mean in my life? The UD community was very supportive of my faith. And I was very proud to be part of that tradition. But I was struggling because of the call of science. And so I did spend a retreat with Father Marty. Father Marty was one of my high school theology and religion teachers. And so we spent some time in discernment. And at the end of that weekend, he helped me to understand that not joining the Society of Mary was not turning my back on my vocation, but it was probably accepting my true vocation in science, and beyond that, as husband and as father. So, in closing, I'd like to thank Professor Mark Nielsen for nominating me. I'd like to thank the faculty. I'd like to thank my friends, and particularly, thank you to the love and support of my family. God bless you all.